You shoot someone, loot pops out. You level up, you upgrade your skill tree. There was a time when shooter looters were the next big thing.
It's so beautiful!
Explosive gunfights, endless loot, and that sweet dopamine rush every time a purple or gold rarity item dropped.
Whoa! Whoa!
But here in 2025, the genre itself feels quiet. So the question is, are shooter looters dead? In order to answer that, we'd first need to define what a shooter looter is exactly. A looter shooter is basically a game where you shoot enemies, collect gear, and rinse and repeat, often adding RPG mechanics and online co-op or multiplayer. Think games like Destiny, Borderlands, Division, etc. They mix the thrill of a first or third person shooter with the addictive loop of loot-based RPGs, and for a while, they seemed unstoppable. In 2009, Borderlands started it all, fusing Diablo-style loot with first-person shooter gameplay, all while adding their own unique sense of humor.
Steve! Steve! Do something with this guy, please!
Next came Destiny. Hate it or love it, Bungie built a live service world that would eventually shape the modern looter shooter genre. And then there was Ubisoft's The Division. The Division introduced a cover-based third-person combat with RPG loot-based elements, allowing players to customize their own character and playstyle based on the skills and guns they've acquired. But not every looter shooter stuck the landing. If you're a looter shooter fan, you'll remember a game called Anthem. Gorgeous world, awesome flying mechanics, but an overall messy launch and shallow endgame killed it off before it could even get rolling.
It stopped. Do you guys want to play something else while this loads?
And then there was Outriders. Great combat, but with few content updates and virtually no endgame structure, it struggled to keep players engaged, eventually leading to its ultimate demise. Even The Division 2 and Destiny 2 saw huge player drop-offs during certain content droughts. If there was no new update or event, players began asking themselves, why am I grinding for loot that becomes irrelevant in a month? And then of course, the free-to-play and live service model would hit and change gaming forever. Battle passes, events, cosmetics, seasonal content, most looter shooters would eventually go all in on this live service model, chasing trends instead of crafting quality gameplay. Sporting time-gated content, shallow loot pools, and the overall hefty reliance on seasonal grinds wore players out. Not to mention the constant balancing issues and damn near impossible RNG drop rates would continuously frustrate and upset players, ultimately leading to an all-time low in concurrent player count for the shooter looter genre. But maybe, just maybe, shooter looters aren't dead. Instead, they're just evolving. Out of the rubble of dead shooter looter titles would come a few new genres that sported the familiar dopamine loot drop along with the first person or third person shooter combat. But they aren't necessarily true looter shooters. They're in a category of their own that still somehow pay tribute to the vintage looter shooter, but with their own twist. Genres like roguelike shooters and extraction shooters, games like Helldivers 2 which focus on team-based combat and meaningful progression but without the bloated loot systems, or Remnant 2 which blended Souls-like difficulty with shooter-looter mechanics. The First Descent, you know what, scratch that. Even smaller titles like Gunfire Reborn would give players the satisfaction of looting and shooting, but in a roguelike loop instead of an RPG progression system. Although some players like myself miss the old days of meaningful loot and the level grind of a true looter shooter experience, perhaps others are burned out. Maybe players just want the reward without the overall grind, and that's something that they can get in a roguelike shooter, where you can loot guns and level up, but there isn't any long-term commitment to any particular build because each run is different. Or extraction shooters, where players can get the thrill of a battle royale type setting while looting for weapons and gear that upon successful extraction can enhance their character for future runs. So we gotta ask ourselves one more time, are looter shooters dead? Nah son, in fact, the opposite. The once highly regarded genre instead birthed a handful of subgenres, paving the way for games such as Tarkov, DayZ, Delta Force. Even Fortnite weapons drop in that familiar rarity created by the shooter-looter genre. So no, shooter-looters aren't dead, they just evolved. That formula that once felt fresh now needed a little hint of innovation is all. Regardless, the future of the genre depends on the developers and their ability to make games that respect players' time, offer meaningful progression, and above all, feel fun. But now it's your turn. You let me know what your favorite looter shooter is, and do you still play them, or have you moved on from the genre altogether? Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell for more notifications when we drop videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.